Welcome to From the Shed Ends with myself, T.Dot, and Theo. How you doing?
Not bad. Let's put Chelsea aside for a moment. It's been a decent weekend. Had some catch up with some friends, and weather in London hasn't been too shabby over the last few days. So I feel like spring is just around the corner. But yeah, like I said, Chelsea aside, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, same. Hard to watch football when your team lets you down. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, always good to jump on the podcast and talk. And yeah, the weather's actually decent up here. It feels like a summer's day, which is weird, which is good. So yeah, can't complain about the weather either. But as always, guys, if you're listening to this or you're watching, you should be watching this on YouTube. Make sure you smash that subscribe button as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and give the video a thumbs up as well. And let us know what you think about the performance on Saturday. And that's what we're going to get straight into. Theo, give me your thoughts initially. Obviously, you was at the game, but I mean, I honestly don't know where to start this club anymore. I really don't. I'm sick of being positive, but what's your thoughts on the performance on Saturday?
I'm slightly lost for words. I really am lost for words. I mean, if we go back to episode 82 of the podcast, I was confident we beat them 3-0. You know, three goals, which is kind of uncanny from Chelsea this season. But I thought we're playing a team that have just sacked their manager, who are rock bottom of the Premier League, who last week couldn't even beat Wolves with 10 men for a large part of the game. I thought the stars were aligned for us to just get a comfortable win, get our first win to Palace, and before that it was Bournemouth at the end of the last year. I thought we'd win it, but it just that first half was so flat, so dire. And obviously, when the players are performing like that and the team is performing like that, the atmosphere is just rubbish. I was at the game, I was sat in Matthew Harding lower. It was hardly an electric atmosphere like we're used to. And I don't think we've had that at the Bridge since, in the league at least, since the Premier League game against Tottenham at the start of the season. So I think the fans need to play their part as well. But I kind of get them being so kind of drained, given that the players aren't giving it anything. You could just see the body language of the players coming out of the tunnel. There's a video that's kind of doing rounds on social media of the players coming out of the tunnel, Aspie trying to motivate them. And they all just look like zombies just coming out of the tunnel, zero energy. And I think that's kind of reflecting the performance they gave. In terms of the lineup, we're not in a luxury position. We're 11 points above the relegation zone, 11 points off top four. Why are we rotating the team? Why are we making so many changes? We're not playing Thiago Silva. We're not playing Reece James. We're not playing Loftus-Cheek. We're Cucurella, Ziyech. Okay, maybe they're not. They're players that can be easily replaced. But Reece James, Silva, and the versatility of Loftus-Cheek, those are three players you need in your starting 11 for this such a crucial game like Southampton, which was a must win in my opinion. So I think that's down to Graham Potter. That's really down to Graham Potter. Something else I've noticed in the game, obviously Azpilicueta's clumsy challenge to give away on the edge of the box to Ward-Prowse. You give away a challenge like that, you might as well give a penalty when it's Ward-Prowse taking the free kick. And then I'm pleased to say that Aspie's doing better now because that looked like a really nasty challenge. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. But we've got about 10 minutes of play being stopped. And that's the perfect time for your manager to group the players, give them a bit of tactical information and change things around, talk to your players. Instead, you've got João Felix and Mudryk, just kicking the ball about. You've got Graham Potter still as a statue on the sideline. You've got fans with their phones out screaming at Graham Potter, telling them to talk to his players. I'm not sure you've seen the video of that. But it's just, I've tried to back Potter and I've tried to back the process, but I'm not seeing a process anymore. I'm really not seeing a process. When you're losing 1-0 to Southampton at home, you can't even score a goal against a team that haven't kept a clean sheet in God knows how many games. Southampton have picked up a third of their points this season against us. We're a laughingstock. I think we've got Everton, Leeds, Tottenham in our next three games. They're probably licking their lips right now when they're playing Graham Potter's Chelsea, and I don't blame them. But we're a laughingstock, and that performance for me was the most embarrassing performance of the season, without a doubt.
I think we've had many of those this season. I can't recall our last decent performance. I really can't. And I suppose this isn't a game where I'm singling out players. I think the whole team back to front made errors throughout the game, and it was just a poor performance. But I agree with you 100%. I think, I'm not there. I don't see Graham Potter for the 90 minutes of the game, but from what I do see of him, he's not very vocal. And if he is vocal, it's just shouting. It's not, there's no direction from what I can see. I honestly don't get it. I think for me, I always think the teams below us, and I think I said it on the podcast, episode 82, the teams below us are going to be fighting for points. They need to get out the relegation. They want to be away from relegation. We haven't even hit 40 points yet. We're still 31 points. And the sort of benchmark is 40 points to stay in the league. We're 11 points from safety. We lose against Tottenham on Sunday. I mean, I said it a few weeks ago. We're in a relegation battle, and now I'm not actually joking about it. I think we are definitely getting drawn into that conversation of, will we be there or thereabouts? It's that sort of season for us. I don't think it's nothing from these players, and Saturday for me wasn't about the team. For me, set up incorrectly again. The subs didn't really make much. I mean, Fofana coming off, I thought he had a relatively good first half. You could see he was trying to do something with the ball. He's making some good runs. I think there was one point I can't remember who he turned. He turned to play a sort of halfway line and ran a good length of the pitch to try and get the ball up the field. And he brought him off at half time. I didn't understand that. I thought he's one of our best players, but I just don't see where this club is going to go in terms of beyond Spurs or anything else. I really don't think anyone can back Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter. I always make the mistakes of names. I'm rubbish at names, but I don't think anyone can back Graham Potter. And the reason I did bring up Thomas Tuchel is because a lot of people are still referencing Thomas Tuchel. I don't think any Chelsea fan, any sane Chelsea fan, will think that Thomas Tuchel will come back to the club. I don't think it's that. And we have to remember Thomas Tuchel's time at the end of his time at Chelsea was poor. It was poor results, poor football. So I don't think anyone wants Thomas Tuchel back. Yeah. So all this comparison stuff on socials, and there's so many accounts that are we follow, and we respect them. That they're good accounts, but bringing up Thomas Tuchel all the time. No, the only people who bring up Thomas Tuchel are the people that saying that we're talking about Thomas Tuchel. No one's talking about Thomas Tuchel. No, he's gone. He's out the club. But Graham Potter is not the guy. I don't see anything from Graham Potter to make me believe. And I said this to you a couple of weeks ago. There's nothing that he brings to the table that makes me think, right, he's the guy for the job. He hasn't shown us anything. There's nothing he does that. It just is nothing from him. There's nothing from him. And the worrying thing is now, I think a lot of people are pinning their hopes on Dortmund. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You give your players 2 days off. At one point last week, I thought Dortmund was this week. Hence the players being dropped and rested and whatever else. And then I checked and I thought, I'm sure it's a week, Wednesday or a week. It's not until another week. So why have you rested Reece James and Thiago Silva and all these players to then give them 2 days off anyway? What's the point? It doesn't make any sense. You've got your only recognised right back in Cesar Spilicueta playing. Just put Reece James on the bench. You might need him. In fact, you did need him because Spilicueta ended up, being stretched off. So I don't get where Graham Potter is trying to steer this club, and it's a worry now. It really is a worry. Do you think I don't think we can sack him, but this is sackable in terms of results. This is sackable for me, but I don't think we can sack him. What's your thoughts? Do you think we're in a position to sack someone we've heavily invested in terms of bringing in recruitment staff from or coaching staff from Brighton? The players that now have come in since January as well that you'd expect Graham Potter to have had a hand in. Can we sack him? Is it financially even viable to do that with the fees that we'll be talking about in terms of compensation?
I mean, if Abramovich was still at the club, I think his helicopter would have landed at Cobham a very long time ago, and he would have done it, even in a tunnel of Stamford Bridge on Saturday. But I don't know what Bowley's kind of vision or thinking is. I think from what I've read, his time in America, he gives coaches a long time to build their teams and their vision. So I think that's the only thing now that's keeping Graham Potter still in the job is Todd Bowley as our new owner. But I just struggle to see what this process, this vision is right now. He's brought in all these new players, and now that was the one thing that was kind of clinging me on to wanting to back him. But I've seen nothing this team hasn't gelled yet. There's no cohesion in the team. There's no identity. Graham Potter doesn't even know what his best starting 11 is. And I think that is really worrying. Now we're in February, and I don't think we've seen a single kind of 11 that we can identify as this being Chelsea's best starting 11. We don't have that. He's starting to lose the fans now. He doesn't really seem to be having that kind of fighting spirit in post-match interviews. I don't even think he came out to do a post-match interview after the Southampton game. It's just kind of like the atmosphere at the club feels very flat. I know he keeps saying that, the training ground, the players are in a good mood and this, but the fans aren't in a good mood. And I don't see the players being in a good mood either. The only reason apparently that Mason Mount's not wanting to sign his new contract is because he feels very unsettled at the club and he doesn't know what his role is under Graham Potter in this new Chelsea system. So I think a lot of the players are unsettled, and I don't think it'll be long now before these big money signings like Mudryk, João Felix, Enzo Fernandez, who are used to playing Champions League football and winning games, will start to think, who's this clown in charge? I don't know who this is. I want a kind of a serial winner that's used to kind of coaching games, giving inspiring half-time team talks. And you look at Jorginho, what he said about Arteta after full time, saying that his half-time team talk inspired the team to victory. And that's a manager that he's given 4 years that's really built the team. But there were signs of that in the first season. He took Arsenal to the FA Cup final. We're out of both cup competitions for the first time since God knows how long. The only thing now we've got is 30 odd years. The only thing now we've got, like you mentioned, is the second leg against Dortmund, where we've got a 1-0 lead to catch up on. 1-0, we're trailing 1-0 after the first leg. And like I said, we haven't scored more than one goal since the 27th of December. And what makes you think we're going to do that against Dortmund if we can't bloody do it against Southampton? It's shocking. It's honestly, it's just like, it pains me at the moment to be a Chelsea fan, and I'm not letting it trying to affect my mood too much, but I want to see signs of improvement. I'm not seeing those signs at all.
It's difficult. I mean, I woke up this morning and the worst thing you can do on a Monday morning is check Chelsea news. I think someone made a sort of tongue-in-cheek joke that we've only scored one goal in February, so our goal of the month is already decided so far. It's mental. I want to just quickly show, and I don't know if you got to see this earlier on today, but this is basically the Premier League form table for the last 14 games. I mean, it's sackable. It's sackable. I don't know how anyone in their right mind can honestly sit down and say, right, yeah, Graham Potter's doing a good job. I can see what he's trying to do with the club. Sackable offences happening at a top established football club. I'm flabbergasted. I mean, this is the first time I'm talking about the game since Saturday, and Zachariah was on the bench. I think, why not bring him on? Change something. We got to see Erik ten Hag yesterday, and he could see that Leicester were doing stuff in the game that was going to be affecting how he wanted to set up his team for the second half, and he made the changes at half time that were good. I watched Eddie Howe at Newcastle. The players, the togetherness around that club, they play for each other. They play for the manager. Arsenal dug deep against Aston Villa and got a performance, like you said about Jorginho in the halftime talk. I just don't see anything from Graham Potter and the players. Let's not, the players have got to take some blame as well. I don't think it's just all Graham Potter, but I think the buck stops with him because he's the manager. And if things aren't happening on the pitch, I can only imagine that's down to what's been given as instructions by the manager. And it's worrying. I'll be honest. I can't see where the next week's coming from. The next goal is coming from. I honestly can't see us scoring against Spurs, Leeds, Everton. It's what I mean. I'm smiling because I don't know what else to do, but it's honestly a worrying period for Chelsea fans at this point now, and the excuses are running out for me. We had Reece James fully fit. I think he's come out this morning, or news has come out this morning around Graham Potter saying that the players that were rested are one game away from an injury, but we haven't got a game for another week. Our next game's Sunday. Surely you need 3 points. You're playing bottom of the league, managerless Southampton. You have to get a result. You've got to risk and reward. You've got to play them. And if they get injured, then so be it. You got to take, I'm sure the fans will be pissed off about it, but at least we've got 3 points. And at least we've got something to show for our performance. But to not play these players and then to put in a dog shit team, it just didn't make any sense. Why have you rested players for 7 days to recover, and you've given them 2 days to go to Alton Towers or wherever they've gone. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's mind blowing. But I mean, he's on 12 million a year, 5-year deal. I feel like this is the only bit of business that Todd Bowley and Egbali have done that is really, really going to damage the club. What's your thoughts on that? Because if we sack him, we've got to pay 60 million. That I think would then affect our financial fair play as well. What's your thoughts on all of that? I mean, if we sack him, who comes in? Because this is the answer that when I talk about Potter, people say to me, well, who would you like in? And I'll be honest, I don't have an answer because I expected Potter to do better than he is. So I don't have an answer. But who would you like to potentially see that the name being thrown into the hat? And how do we go on? How do we progress as a club?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've spoken so much about these long-term contracts and how it's kind of helped us sign these players. But in a situation of our manager, it might really cost us because, like you said, if we sack him, that's 60 million down the drain in a way for what 6-7 months of mediocrity. Not even mediocrity, absolute bullshit in a way. Dog shit, yeah. Free wins since November. It's not good enough. Who would I bring in? Part of me just thinks like, what's the point now? The season's done and dusted. Might as well stick with Potter until the end of the season and then sack him then. But I think a couple candidates that I can think of: Luis Enrique, good manager, won the Champions League with Barcelona in 2015. A manager of Spain recently as well. Mauricio Pochettino, Premier League experienced. I think he seems to want to come back to the Premier League as well. Hasn't really won much. That's the one thing that worries me. Zinedine Zidane, 3 Champions Leagues, but again, he's been very fortunate to manage the best team in the world. So I don't know, again, if he's how could he deal with a team that are kind of lacking that cohesion and aren't gelling properly at the moment, if he's the right man to kind of bring them all together. But yeah, those are 3 names I can think of. I don't know, again, if we might go for one of the kind of young German professors, whether that be Nagelsmann or Hansi Flick or one of those guys. But yeah, I just really can't really think of a successor right now because I'm trying to focus on trying to make this work, but I'm really struggling. Really, really struggling. I've always been positive before about Potter and the process, like I called it. But I think that game on Saturday for me really was a turning point.
Yeah, and I don't think you're on your own. I think a lot of people, and let's have it right as well. We want Graham Potter to be successful at the club. It's not. I think a lot of people, when they say they're not happy with Graham Potter, but they want him at the club. No, I want him to be really good. I want him to be one of the best, top English managers that manage Chelsea. I want it to work. But like you said at the start of this, if there's no process to trust, you can't trust an invisible process that isn't in. There's nothing to give us. He's not giving us anything. Graham Potter doesn't even trust Graham Potter at the moment. It feels that bad. So I don't think anyone wants to see him go as the worst manager. And I think that was one of the hard questions that he did get asked in one of the post-match interviews, is that he's been told that he's one of the worst managers of Chelsea's history, which I thought was a bad question to ask him in a press conference. But he doesn't want to go out as one of the worst. I don't have that on your CV, but I want him to do well. He's got all the tools. I read just before we came on that someone said he needs the tools to do the job. I mean, what other tools can you give this guy apart from hiring someone else to do the job for you? Apart from a striker, I'll give him that. We've got Enzo Fernandez now. We do need someone in midfield to help him, of course. But surely Southampton is not, it's unforgivable. I'm sorry. No one can convince me that Southampton were that good that we couldn't even score against them. I'm sorry. We can't. You can't do that because it's not on. And it's really annoying because it's making the fan base really toxic at the moment. There's so many people that are Potter out, Potter in. It shouldn't even be a case of that. We just want to see the club do better and win games back to back, go on a good run of games. But where do we go from here? I mean, you sum this one up for me. Where do we go from here? What do we do next? I mean, we'll do a preview, but that game's looking a bit. I feel like taking a day off afterwards just to sit in a dark room.
Yeah, where do we go from here? Like you said, Spurs next this weekend. Our record at their stadium is constant wins. We haven't even conceded a goal away from home at the new Tottenham Stadium. That's bloody going to change, isn't it, this weekend?
I mean, Graham likes the history, make history, but in the wrong reasons. So
exactly, we're going to make history for the wrong reasons. And again, we're playing a team who are without their manager. Doesn't really make a difference at the moment, manager or no manager. They'll probably walk on us, and just, I don't know. Where do we go from here? We've spoken a lot about Potter, but I want to. The players should be taking a lot of the blame as well.
Yeah.
I stayed till the very end and looked at exactly which players kind of came to, clap the fans. Havertz, Gallagher, straight down a tunnel. Kepa, Mount, Chilwell made an extra effort to do a whole kind of lap of the stadium, clapping the fans. The others kind of semi-approached us and then went back into the tunnel. Just the body language of these players is appalling, absolutely appalling. They need to have some kind of, maybe Potter does have to play a part. You look at how Mourinho, Conte, and some of the other managers like Tuchel, how animated they were on the side of the pitch, how they take players aside when there was a bit of a break and give them some tactical instructions. Even Arteta. And Ten Hag did that with Diego Dalot as soon as Rashford scored.
Yep.
When will you ever see Potter do that?
It's because we don't score, so we don't get time to ever.
True. Maybe that's why. But in his defense,
no, I'm guessing. You're right. You're right, 100%.
But I think there needs to be blame on both sides. But I think the manager, he's the one who's being paid to get these players to perform well. And right now, when they're not doing that, so where do we go from here? Another defeat this weekend, and then we're going to be asking ourselves the same kind of questions we're asking now.
If we lose, I want him gone. He's got to go. I'm sorry. We can't, and that's harsh. And I'm sure there has to be a way. Hopefully Todd Bowley was smart, and you've got Potter falls under a certain win percentage. Surely he has to relinquish some of his compensation. I'm hoping they've been smart and done something along that in the contract, or if you're sacked within the first year of your contract, you only receive a percentage of the compensation that's owed to you, or whatever.
Probation period type of thing.
Precisely. And he's still technically under a probation period. He's probably just coming out of it now. And that's a good point, actually. If there's any other job, we worked in Sainsbury's, wherever, I think I've said this before on here, you wouldn't allow someone to go this long in the job without some sort of performance review or something to say, look, you need to pull your socks up a little bit and stock the shelves properly, make sure the tin of beans is showing face forward as opposed to back. You would have to pull someone up, and maybe they are doing that behind the scenes, but something isn't changing on the pitch. And if we lose against Spurs on Sunday, there has to be, I know they've come up this morning, the Athletics reported that he's got the backing of the board. There has to be questions asked.
Yeah, I think I saw he's got Spurs, Everton and Leeds to kind of show some signs of improvement. But what is improvement? Playing well, but still losing 1-0?
Yeah, I want 3 wins.
I want 3 wins too.
I want 9 points, 3 wins, good performances, more than 1 goal. And that's a progression for me. If we scrape a 1-0, but we played really poor, that's not progression, because that's just a bit of luck that we might have got through that game. But I need to see a really good performance from everyone on Sunday. And Leeds is going to be a tough game. That's a really tough game. Dortmund in that as well. He's got, ideally for me, I want him gone before the season's over. Bring someone in, if it's an interim, or you bring someone in just for the last couple of months of the season. But it allows, you don't want to be doing that recruitment for a new manager in the summer. I'd rather them come in early, assess the team. I think Ten Hag done that last year. I think he came in quite early, got on board early. He was around. He got to see the club. Got to see he was playing well.
I think he was at the last game of the season, even something like that.
Yeah. Ragnick was still there, but I think he was. He said he wanted to get into the job early to assess things. I think we need to do something similar. And if we don't sack him, then this is what we need to be getting used to, these sort of defeats and performances, because I don't see how they get any better under Graham Potter. I really don't. And I want to be wrong. I want to be proven wrong, and I want someone to prove me right, but I don't see it. I really don't, and I can't back him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure we're going to wrap up soon, but just before we wrap up, I wanted to say pleased to see that Aspie has recovered well in hospital, smile on his face in his latest update, because that looked like a really nasty challenge. Obviously, you saw it on the TV, and you could almost hear the impact of the.
It was like
hitting his face.
It was bad. Yeah. It was to the point where I actually called my wife downstairs and said, "Just listen to this," and she's like, "Oh no, that sounds like he's done something really bad." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it sounds like he's fractured his skull." But to come off the way that he did, I know he was applauding the fans as he was coming off. He was
right in front of us. He lifted his hands. like that,
Yeah.
which was good to see. Really
And
good to
obviously,
see.
like you said, he's up, he's smiling, he's back on socials by the looks of it. So, and that's what I like about him. As much as we criticize him, you know, he's not scared to put his life on the line to do that. And that's what we need in a team. More people like him, albeit that he hasn't got the legs, but he's still got the head. He doesn't mind getting his head kicked in, which is fine. But yeah,
Just needs to cut out the clumsy challenges there on the edge of the box.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But yeah, I mean, this has been a good therapy session. We're smiling at the end of it, so it means it's been good. Yeah, we've got a nice week of no football. This is a good week for us just to be able to assess other people's teams without having to be stressed out in the week because lost to Dortmund or something. So, yeah, looking forward to Spurs. We'll do a review for that one, I'm sure. I'm not looking for. I'm lying. I'm just saying it for the YouTube, but I'm not looking forward to Spurs. Yeah, we'll do a review for that one, I'm sure, near the end of the week as well. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that Linktree link as well in the description. It will take you to the podcast episodes and all the social accounts as well. Theo, as always, been a pleasure. We've got a week of no bullshit football from Chelsea. Enjoy it while you can. And we'll be back very soon with another video. Thank you very much for watching.